Hello fellow naturescapers out there, I'm Anthony and welcome to the channel. This is Aquascaping on the Fly, where we do everything between aquascaping and terrariums. Today we have another terrarium tutorial coming up. Here's the challenge. One new vessel, some hardscape, some of my favorites that I have not been able to use yet, which was this tiny little hollowed out log, and some cool driftwood, and some other darker pieces that I've been saving, plus some rocks, oops, some rocks right here. Now, I kind of have a concept, but I want to give you guys some time to, kind of see if you can come up with, what do you think I'm going to do with this? Traditional or something different? You should know by now it's going to be different. Anyway, stick around and let's see what happens. All right, did anyone guess what I was going to do with this? It was arts and crafts while you guys were taking a snooze, and it was a hot second for you, but it was all afternoon for me. I kind of knew I wanted to do like a theme, and I'm still not going to give the theme away yet, but I did make some trees, and I put them on rocks so that I could put them just under the soil level and that they will still stand and I don't have to worry about them falling over, and then I can move them wherever I want. So I made enough of the trees. I like to have an odd number, but I made an extra one just in case I break one. And then I made an arch, and I'm wondering if I can put moss on this, and it will fit right into the terrarium in the middle. And still, there is a theme, but I'm not sure yet if it's going to work out. And I also, because here when I did the hollowed out log pond, the log holds water, but it evaporates within a few hours. So my log is there. I put some floater plants in there. The water just evaporates so quickly with the intensity of the lighting. And one thing I did do, and if you're new to the channel, I've been fighting gnats in my Kong Skull Island terrarium, and then I also grow all my own house plants, my terrarium plants. I'm growing aquascaping plants for my tank builds, the Trinity series that's coming up, and I have all that in tubs. Plus, I have another set of tubs that's in the bedroom under grow lights under my bed that's for moss and other things that I find out in nature, so that I always have something available. And all that stuff is, when I'm doing my terrarium plants, I'll buy one plant and then I'll split it up like crazy and then put those in growth chambers. So I've always got a really good inventory, which means for me, the most I ever pay for usually one little plant, I get the little 3.5 inch, and I go to Walmart, Lowe's, or Home Depot. They all carry the exact same brand. It's Coosa Farms. It's cheaper to buy them in one of those 3 vendors than it even is to go on Amazon and go directly to their website. Their website, it's more expensive and they charge you shipping. You can get them on Amazon, but I think it's better if you have access to one of those 3 stores. They ship at the same time, so you don't have to worry about Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart getting a shipment first. No, it goes out to all the stores and it's basically the same thing with a little variety. But if I'm paying $4 to $6 for one pot and then I split it up, it's making all these plants, literally maybe a quarter to put inside one of the growth chambers. Now, because I've been having trouble with the gnats though, on this, because this was the build that's how to take an aquarium and turn it into a terrarium, I went to Lowe's and they custom cut me this piece of glass. Now you just pay the flat rate for the glass. Mine was $8, and then they cut it for you, which I think is amazing. They don't do that at Home Depot. And they don't even cut glass at Home Depot. And then the tank here came from PetSmart when it was 50% off open stock. So that was a $15 tank and a $8 piece of glass. What I did do though today, while I was waiting on some of this stuff to dry, is I did Velcro. So now the lid just won't slide off, because this is always going to be sitting here. And so yesterday, I always keep like my food or drinks or whatever on this table, and I kept bumping into it, and the lid just kept like sliding because it's just sitting on this plastic. So I thought, okay, to keep the gnats out and to keep it secure, because I do have a cord running in that's got the light to it. And by the way, the light is free because it's left over from another project. That way, now I don't have to worry. It's secure, nothing's going to get in there, so I feel a lot better about that. And we're not going to have that problem with this build because it does have a lid. Now, if it is not a sealed lid, this is an Anchor Hocking 2-gallon container. I have found a way to make this sealable, and I can show you that when we're getting along in the next section once we put the lid on it and get everything in it. What I'm ready to do now is to put my gravel in, and I'm going to be using pea gravel just because pea gravel is the most inexpensive thing I can find. This is going to sit on a tabletop, so it's not going to be as heavy as this one is. This has got a lot of pea gravel in it. A lot of people use Leica because it's so much lighter. I may eventually convert to that just because this was rather heavy to move it around, because it does have a lot of pea gravel in it. It won't be so bad for this one. And if you're also new to the channel, you can check out my studio build where the studio display area is behind you. You're not seeing that on camera right now. But I created a custom light fixture for this terrarium, and for the one that the video is also out on the slim, I forgot what I called it. Anyway, it's a slim cylinder terrarium. And there's a light fixture that I mounted to the wall that's made out of bark and leftover lighting from my remodel here that I did, and also a closet conversion shelf that I didn't have use for. And I put all that together and made a custom light for this and the other terrarium that's going to be sitting under it. So once we get that set up and this is finished, it'll move to its permanent home, which it already has its own light. So from the very beginning, when I was building, the light fixture was the first thing I built for the display area here. It's always had in mind that it's going to have at least 2 things underneath it to be illuminated just by that one light. And so here's one of them, and I've got the other terrarium behind you that you can't see right now that's going to be under its own little display area. So I'm kind of excited about that because I've always been wanting to now have officially all my lights on and all my timers on, and that way it'll, the room will round out. But for right now, I could do the drainage layer for this and then put the substrate in. Now I'm debating about, I do need to mix some soil, because when I made this one, this took a ton of soil, and then I immediately followed it by the cylinder terrarium. So I may put together like a little separate video shot that shows you how I mix my substrate. I use like 7 ingredients for my substrate, and then just mix it all up, and I keep a bunch of it ready. My substrate, I will let you know that it goes into my terrariums. It also goes into my potted plants that are in my tubs, and I'm also using it to grow immersed aquarium plants in my tubs. Yes, aquarium plants grown in soil in a human environment. And I use the same mix for my moss cultures and the plants that I find out in nature. I use that as well as my base. So I wanted, because I'm in such a small place here, I wanted one soil that would work for everything, and I didn't have to worry about it. So I'm probably going to set up once I clean the rest of my kitchen back up again, I'll set up a display for you to where you can see my substrate, and then you'll have no worries about, if you're a beginner, this is exactly what you start from. But next is going to be the drainage, and then we'll talk about substrate. So stick around. Hi guys, welcome to Substrate 101. Here we're going to cover the basics. What I'm going to start with, so I've got all my ingredients sitting out here, what we got going right now. What I'm going to start with first though is security of your substrate from bugs and pests. Now, it's kind of so much easier that when you make up a batch of soil, that you make up enough that if you're going to keep creating terrariums, or if, like in my case, I grow my terrarium plants out, I grow my house plants out, I am growing moss and outside plants that I collect in the wild in terrarium, not terrarium tubs, but sealed tubs. And then I'm also growing aquatic plants in immersed soil in sealed tubs in a humid condition. So I've got this going not only into my terrariums, but my tubs for my house plants, my tubs for my terrarium plants, and then also my wild plants and moss that I collect in nature, and then for my aquatic plants that I'm growing in soil. So I wanted one recipe across the board, and I'm having really good luck with it. So this kind of works for me. There's always a different recipe out there. Take it for what you will. Give it a try. If it doesn't work for you, try something else. But as far as keeping it secure, let's talk about the container. Now, this is a tub, and it has the handle so it doesn't close. The downside is this does not have a seal. And I can tell you from 100% fact that gnats, if you get them into your area where you're keeping your soil, they will find their way in here because they're not originally sealed. So they can just skimmy on inside there, lay the eggs, escape, live out their life cycle, and then you've got an endless supply of gnats, which is what you do not want. Because once they get into something, it's impossible to get them out of it. I mean, it truly is. And don't get me started on the apple cider vinegar thing. That's useless. So what I did was, this is packing material that I put in around the lid. I cut it in strips, put it on top of the tub, and then to put the lid on top of that. Then when you close it, it is airtight. That's the beauty of this. So even if you have tubs like this and you want to use them, and also another benefit, it makes it more of a humid environment if you're growing something in the tubs. But that will keep the gnats from getting into your soil. So another important thing is when you're mixing your ingredients up, if you've got a gnat inside the location, you watch it like a hawk because you don't want it getting into anything and contaminate it while you got your back turned and you're putting your components together. So that's kind of that. I'll put that out there. So for me, my substrate drainage layer is going to be my pea gravel. And my least expensive place to get pea gravel right now is Home Depot. And so I just keep a 5-gallon bag of that around. I wash it, drain it, so therefore it gets any debris that's on it, because it is quite dirty in the bag. Now, as far as my recipe, again, I didn't come up with this. I kind of stole it off a few other websites, but I like it. I'm doing what's called a 2-part 1. So, sorry, faucet. The 2-part means any container. So this could be a cup, it could be a bowl, it could be a gallon jug, whatever you're using. That just knows that you got 2 scoops, 2 cups, 2 bowls, 2 gallons of sphagnum moss, and I'm using the 1 ratio for everything else. There's some out there that will go as low as like half of that. That's just up to you. For me, it's easier. I just automatically know in my head, 2, 1. And I bought these bowls on purpose so that when I dole it all out, I know everything is even and I can just go from there. But the first thing you've got is the cocoa fiber. And what I like about this is a beautiful color. And sometimes if I'm not going to top it off, I may use a little bit more cocoa fiber because it really brightens up the top layer, especially if you're going to put moss and stuff around there, and it really, really bangs off of that. It's really cool. If you're doing springtails or isopods, you'll want the earthworm castings. So that adds to their overall health. If you're not doing anything like that, any bugs or anything, you probably could eliminate that. And then here's my potting soil. I bump around between organic or whatever's the cheapest, as long as I know it's either organic or something that I've used before. I get them from different places. I get them from Walmart and I get them from Home Depot. Lowe's is a much further drive for me to go. And then reptile bark. That helps in, because you want your substrate layer to not be compacted, and so that really helps with keeping it aerated, which is what you want. You want a healthy substrate so your plants can thrive. And then lastly, what keeps it filtered and purified is the the charcoal. Now, this is the charcoal flakes. I don't like because it releases too much dust in the air. So I had been using before little pellets. You can get the briquettes, the fire briquettes, like from any store, and then just break them up with a hammer because they're way too big. I tried that, and that is really messy. So I like the pellets because you can pour those out and there's very little dust that's getting into the air. But just remember, 2 for 1 for me. You can modify this down. Just remember, you want to control the environment where your substrate's going to go. I hope this helps. If you got any questions, put them in the comments. I will also link my Amazon cart that shows every one of these products, and you can see at the last time I had to purchase them and what they cost me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Okay, so now we have the substrate in. Give you guys a side view here. Back up. So you got there, we got our drainage layer in, substrate, and now we are going to put our arch in. Give you guys a close up of this. Back up. So I put rocks on the bottom to stabilize it, and you can see I just made it out of twigs. And now the other piece, since you guys know I want a water feature, this is our wishing well. So has anyone figured out the theme yet? All right, I've made this at the right height, I hope. Okay, so yes, so the twigs come, the peak of the twigs comes right up to here. So I've given myself as much height for the substrate for planting, and we're gonna cover that up. I'm glad I put the rock on there because this would have been way too light and it would be easy to push over. I'm curious. I want those comments in this section. I want to see who figures this out. I'm going to give you a hint. I am a huge movie buff. And yes, I love animated films. All right, so this is going to go right in the middle. And I am going to put my floating water plants in the wishing well. So that's I hope I get to do that. Now, the twigs, there we go. I really wanted them as centered as possible so I can do my plantings around it. What I'm not sure yet if I want to go any higher on my, I think I'm just gonna do the substrate flat for the scene that I'm kind of going for. I have, if I can get you guys here, I've got 2 tubs picked out that I have moss and a fern, a wild fern growing in, and then some grass that is from nature that I want to put in there. And then I'm going to pick some plants out of the tubs I have for that are growing my terrarium plants. And probably going to give it away when I show you the first plant I'm using. So hold on for that. Let me kind of play around with this, make sure it's where I want it to be, and then I'll start putting some of the greenery on the inside. Okay, so there you have it. I'm super curious. Please put in the comments if you think you knew what I was doing as I was going along. Now, from the first snapshot I showed you, you saw everything laid out. And I put something very specific. Remember, movies, animation. There's a wishing well. In the wishing well itself, I showed you one particular tiny, tiny, tiny plant that had 2 red leaves on it. Okay, so if you haven't got it, it's Snow White. And Snow White at the wishing well sings, "I'm wishing." The little red plant in the well, for me, represents the red apple that the Wicked Witch gives her. So, there you have it. It's Snow White on 2 levels, because one of the plants I showed you is a pink and white, which they call it a Snow White waffle plant. And so I've had like 4 waffle plants. One of them is in Kong over there, and they've just not been doing well at all. So I had one that really kind of perked up over the last week. And I thought, okay, on this terrarium build, I'm gonna focus that plant in there. And I will say, I love how the arch took off. It was easy to do as long as you use the when you're doing the super glue to put the pieces together, to use that spray that instantly gets it to set. I was really glad that I put rock foundation on both sides of the arch. Now, I wanted to put one of the plants I put in there kind of grows like in almost like not a vine, but close to it. But the rocks were so big for the foundation, I couldn't plant anything right up close to it, because I really wanted something to grow over it. And I thought if I had room, I would have had the vine area beefier, and I would have liked to have had some moss, like cut some moss and put some moss along there, because I think it could survive in the terrarium being in the humid conditions. But other than that, I probably put too many plants in there. You saw I put a lot of plants that just have like a leaf or one little start. I'm literally running out of room in my tubs, and so I'm trying to put things in a growth environment so they can stay in there and I can just hopefully maintain them. I love the way it turned out. As you'll notice, where's my trees? My little trees here, which I made 8 of them, they match the vine. Yeah, there's no place for a tree in there. I crammed it full of plants, which when I started planting it, I thought I probably would. I could get 1 or 2 in there, but I'm not sure you would see it, and I think it might compete with the arch itself. And I think the well turned out really, really good. Now, I had to really look for something that would give me the height I wanted, because like the wishing well in the movie is a little taller up, and I knew it was gonna need like a rock layer around it. So what I did is I took my super glue, and this was a lid off of a hair product. So it was tall and not bulky, and it didn't like go in a V shape or something like that, which I had plenty of those little cups that like sauce containers that you get at restaurants, but that really wouldn't work. They're really shallow, and they're really wide at the top and then narrow at the bottom. I thought that's not going to work because it'd be really hard to put rock on it. Plus they're really flimsy. This lid is really super strong, and it's frosted, so I didn't have to worry about like a slick plastic coat on there. So I started with putting super glue at the rim of the lid, and then turned it down upside down in some crushed gravel that I have. And when I say don't throw anything away, literally don't throw anything away. I've been using, on the last 2 builds, leftover like little bark pieces that are tiny that you would think is dirt, but it's actually bark, so I was able to fill in. And then I glued rocks to the outside of the well, and then in the cracks I put more glue, and then sprinkled the dust I have and the pebble dust I have. And so I thought it turned out really, really cool. And then I sprayed the whole thing with I forgot the brand. I think it's spray glue, but it's safe for I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it'll come to me. I'll put a link into the description, but you can see. So I sprayed that down with it, and also the arch is sprayed down with it. I didn't spray the trees, so they're still the same, but they are now something I could use in something else. I'm trying to think anything else that kind of stands out about this. Oh, I used a lot of moss from one of the last times I went out, and I found this moss was growing on with a very super thin layer of dirt on top of rocks, and it already had the ferns integrated with it, and I thought, oh, perfect. So I was able to put that on top of one of the rocks that's the foundation for the arch, and I'm hoping if I just laying that down, it'll fill in really nicely. And then I found, you saw the one where I put some grass in there. I thought that was it's something that's really kind of cool. And I put a couple other plants that I picked up just on my nature walks. I have no idea what these plants are, but if they're surviving in the winter, they're probably going to be fine. And we'll just, take it from there. Especially there was one that looked like tiny, tiny, tiny little trees. And I love it, and I'm not sure it'll survive in a terrarium because I was kind of having trouble with it in the tubs. But I went ahead and threw some in there because I just want to, it's just an experiment. Let's just see how it works out. And I also love the fact that the arch comes all the way up to the lid. That's really what I was looking for. Now, I did have a prior idea. I had a twig item like this twig, and I was going to try and glue the base of it right here and have it come down into the terrarium, but it was too wide for the opening, and I did not want to cut it down at all because I might still be able to use that in one of the aquascaping tanks, because it's got that nice wooden structure that we could put stuff on it, and I can seal that with the spray super glue and not have a problem with putting it inside, one of the aquariums. But I love this. Now remember, this, you can't see it, the desk area behind you, the studio area is a wreck right now. So, but I'll do a follow-up, or at least I do a screenshot and show you where this is underneath where the lighting fixture that's supposed to be, along with the cylinder terrarium that I just did. They're gonna go together, and then I do have one other planned, but I need to get these in place and make sure there's enough light for a third one to go there. If not, it'll just be the two. But I hope you enjoyed this. It's always when I'm doing something like this, to me it's just super relaxing and super, super easy. I am kind of overly critical of my own work, and I always think I put way too much in there. I always have hardscape left over. I don't get to the rocks I want to put in there. I originally also thought about an idea of putting flagstone, what would look like flagstone, when I was going to do the well. And I thought, well, I'll put some flagstone that looks like flagstone around it and make it look like a patio area. And I thought, no, let's just go with she's out in the woods anyway, and that's where she's singing the song. So let's just keep with it. The arch was just like the decorative piece. I gotta have some flair in there. Oh my gosh, I can't be boring. I gotta go over the top. So that is Snow White. So I hope you like her. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see if anyone actually got my hints going forward. But you guys take care, and I'll see you later. Okay guys, I thought I would go ahead and give you a parting shot of the studio wall. You can see I've got the 3 tanks set up on the shelf. That's going to be the Trinity series. And here is the light fixture that I made for the display, actually for the 2 terrariums that are on that right now. So it's a Vertical Slim and now Snow White. And I have a third planned to go there, and I think I've got plenty of light to go ahead and do that. But let me give you just a little closer up. And no, I have not made a lid yet for the vertical slim. So I've got to make a lid for that, or maybe buy like a little disc or something to go on top of there. But I love the fact that they're where they're supposed to be. And just one more, and then my little trio of the terrariums will be done, and then I'll start working on the tank. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for hanging out with me, and look in at the end of the video is where I'll put the plant listings and also the substrate information for you guys that are interested in that. So until later, take care. Bye.